Hey friends. Hey friends. Welcome back to Beer&Beauty. It's Kasha. It's been really fun to do Vlogmas because I've had all these video ideas all year long and it's finally forcing me to create these videos that I've been thinking about making all year long and actually doing it. So yeah, today's video was inspired by a channel, a video that I saw so long ago, and it's actually a video that inspired me to make some of these purchases that I'm going to be consulting with today. It's a video made by a channel called Makeup Just for Fun, but she made a ranking Colourpop palettes video, and you know, as you guys know, I'm on a no-buy year this year, but before my no-buy year, I did manage to accumulate 10 Colourpop palettes. 9 of them eyeshadow palettes and 1 of them a highlighter palette. So yeah, when I was watching Amanda's video, I actually found it really helpful to know how to spend my money on the Colourpop website because, well, when she put out her video, it was basically right at the beginning of the time when Colourpop was releasing a lot of palettes. It really helped me learn about which Colourpop palettes are the most outstanding. Some of her recommendations really helped influence my Colourpop palette collection, and I can't wait to show you which ones are my favorites. I can't wait to rank them for you. So, without further ado, first let's discuss today's libation of the day. Even though it is December, it is still fall. I am enjoying Wormtown Brewery's Fresh Patch Pumpkin Ale, and it's been kicking around in my fridge for a while waiting to be used in the video, so let's go ahead and... yes. Tasting a pumpkin beer really does bring me back to October. It gives me spooky vibes a little bit, but even so, I am so in December mode, and I bet you are too. I mean, every time you get into your car, I'm sure you hear Christmas music on the radio and what have you, so. But it's delicious. It's a little bit hoppier. It's not very nutmeggy. Almost kind of got like a Pilsner-y base. It's got a very light base, so that's kind of nice. And yeah, good beer. Good, nice little pumpkin beer that's fresh, and it's local. It's from Wormtown Brewing Company, which is here in Worcester, Massachusetts. So cheers to that. And yes, I think I'm gonna rank the palettes in the same way that she did. So we're going to start with number 10, and I found that working down from number 10 going to number 1 created a little bit of a fun anticipation moment. And so yeah, let's get into it. So I decided that my least favorite Colourpop palette in my collection is the You Had Me at Hello palette. And this is the palette that had, I never peeled off the sticker, but this was the one that had the controversy that it was supposed to be a different palette and they just kind of released it as something else. They put the sticker on top of the thing, but I decided not to peel anything off just because, I don't know, the drama didn't really concern me. I gave this palette quite a few chances. I took it traveling with me, and then that's why you can see that it's kind of beaten up, but the truth is these colors just do not inspire me. I am not compelled to pick up this palette at all. I have used it a handful of times, and something I will say before we get too deep into the Colourpop video is that Colourpop's eyeshadow formula is just incredibly consistent. So it's not that these shadows are bad. All of Colourpop's shadows that I've tried are good. Some of them are a little bit more extraordinary than others, but I haven't had a Colourpop shadow just kind of fail me yet. All the shadows perform in the way that I would expect them to. It's just that, you know, the shimmers are pretty unspectacular, the mattes are pretty unspectacular. This palette has very little range. That has that one dark shade, which is a nice deepening shade, but everything else here is very mid-toned, and I just never reach for it. And if you're interested, this is on my Poshmark right now. So I'm considering all offers right now because I'm moving at the end of the month, and I need to downsize my belongings as much as possible. Coming in at the number 9 is a palette that's very pretty, but as you can see right here, when I open it, it looks like it's been used maybe once. And yeah, that tracks. I think I might have used it once or twice. And I bought this palette because I think it was Andrea Matiliano recommended it. She said this is her favorite Colourpop palette, that she picks it up all the time. And I'll say that the shimmers are very pretty. This one actually has a little bit more range than the You Had Me at Hello. You know, there's a good range of deep shades, mid-tone shades, and light shades for a 12 pan palette. But I just am not inspired by it. It's just not my favorite neutral palette that I've ever tried. It's a little bit on the rosy side, but you know, I'm just not a rosy eyeshadow person, even though I am kind of wearing a rosy eyeshadow look today, but it's not normally what I go for. And that's why it's number 9. And that one's also available on my Poshmark. It's very gently used. Like the next 3 spots, I had a little bit of a hard time deciding which one was gonna go where. You know, I like the rest of the palettes that I'm gonna mention to you, but I decided to mention this one just because I use it a little bit less. This is the Colourpop Element of Surprise palette. Looks like this. As you can see, it's also very gently used. I got this palette inside of a Boxycharm a while back, which was actually, when I got it, I'm just like, oh, how fun! A Colourpop palette inside of a Boxycharm. That's so cool. The truth is, there's a lot of really unique shades in here. This duochrome purple shade that has like a little bit of a blue shift, that one's really pretty. This hot pink color is very obviously attractive because it's so bright. That pop of color is so fun and bright. This shimmer right here, I think that's called Feels. I don't know if that's Feels or Rayon. I think that one's gonna be Rayon. I think the shades correspond this way, so I imagine this shade to be called Sea Stars because it's got like little bits of glitter in it, rather than this one that's called Details, because it's like a nice matte shadow. I do like how like mustardy this color it is. It's a pretty unique spread. Oh, and this shimmer shade up here, it's got like a pink reflect to it. I'll go ahead and swatch it. Yeah, it's got like a nice pink little shift right there too. And you know what, I'll go ahead and swatch this one just because it seems to be a pretty extraordinary shadow. So yeah, that's like a pink, it's got like a pink to green reflect. It's actually really interesting, that shadow. And I like that the packaging actually is a little, you know, it's purple and what's inside is pretty purpley. It's not the most purpley palette I've ever seen in my life, but it's not terribly misleading. It is a pretty palette, it's just one that I just never pick up. I don't know why. It gets lost in the mix. Pretty, and I bet somebody out in the world out there would love it. You know, as somebody that has a large collection, it gets lost in my collection quite a bit. And yeah, a lot of these shadows have never been touched. This one has never been touched. This one's never been touched. And this one looks like it was touched once. Very gently used palette, also available on my Poshmark. And, you know, if you're somebody that's looking to collect Colourpop palettes, I believe I have 4 up right now. And you can put them in a bundle and save on shipping. Coming in the number 7 spot is the Colourpop Yes Please palette. It's always been a little bit confusing that it says QAF in the front, but it's called a Yes Please palette. That's pretty funny to me. But I bought this palette when I was still pretty hyped up and new. And when I first got it, I was so, oh gosh, this color scheme really attracted to me. It was very chic and new. I think I bought it because I saw a Jay Kissa video where she duped it against the Natasha Denona palette. And yeah, some of these shimmers this whole color scheme is just very Leo, very summertime, and that it still kind of appeals to me for those reasons. And even the yellow is like a pretty good yellow. Like, it's hard to create a yellow that is good at a low price point, and I think they did it here. Let's see, this orange shimmer is really unique, and I still reach for it all the time because it is such a gorgeous, like, coppery carrot orange. I think that's so pretty. I'll go ahead and swatch that yellow just so you can see what that looks like. It's low down on the list because it's one that I just don't use as much anymore, but when it was new, it was one that was so exciting, and then, you know, the color scheme just still speaks to my personality in a big way. I still really enjoy it, and it still performs well, and once in a while I'll still reach for it just because it's a pretty mid-tone palette, but it does have quite a bit of range, you know. Like, this is actually a beautiful little warm-toned deepening brown shade, and the lights are pretty light, and there's quite a few mid-tone shades. It's a nice little spread, a nicely thought out palette, and I still like it. Next palette is the one highlighter palette that is going to be featured in this video, and it's the Colourpop Innuendo palette. It was actually really hard for me to figure out where to place this palette in this video, just because, to be truthful, I feel like if I were to wear each one of these highlighters at least 3 times on my face, I'd have a better opinion of it, but I haven't gotten a chance to do that yet, just because I have yet to do a highlighter declutter, and I need to do that. But I bought this palette because of Jay Kissa yet again. She absolutely loves this, she raves about this, and it does have a really good range of highlighters that would work for a bunch of different skin tones. So I like that. I am wearing it on my face today. It looks gorgeous. You can build it up to make it like really blingy, or more of like a go in with a light hand and have like a subtle lit from within glow. I'm also wearing it in my inner corners as well. Or you can be somewhere in between as well. It's a buildable formula, which I absolutely respect about it, and the range is good. Like I said, the range is good. It's got some colors that would work for very fair people, for medium tone people, and even for people with a deeper skin tone. I'm looking to keep this in my kit a little bit longer. Oh yeah, it's actually really interesting because when you hold it at an angle, you can kind of see a little bit more of the range of depth here. You know, you've got a deep color here, more medium toned shades over here, and one really light shade. So I think what I'm wearing today is a combination of Morning After and Fine Line. And yeah, even though they seem like they're very medium toned highlighters, they work really well on me. I'm kind of like a light. I'm not particularly that fair. I have a light skin tone. Like, usually when foundations call themselves like light or medium light, that's my shade. That's the one that I usually wear. Really well thought out palette. The formulas across all 6 is very consistent, and I like it. So that is in the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That's in the number 6 spot. That's the Colourpop Innuendo palette. In the number 5 spot is actually a limited edition palette that you can't get anymore, but I am wearing it on my eyes today, and it still performs beautifully, and it still has some pretty unique shades in it. I think it's just a well thought out palette, and it has some really fun December shades in it. So it's the Colourpop All I See Is Magic palette, and it looks like this. And yeah, it's just got such a beautiful spread of shimmers across all tones. There's some really light tone shimmers, some medium tone shimmers, and some dark shimmers. And then there's a couple like awesome matte shades in here too, also with a little bit of a spread. There isn't like a particular deepening shade, but I did use this shade as my outer corner, my deepening shade, and I'm using this shade in my inner corners, this shade in the middle, and I think this shade on my outer corners. As you can see, it works. It really works to create some pretty dynamic looks. You can create colorful looks, nice shimmery holiday looks, or even neutral looks with this palette. And like I said, some of these colors are still, to this day, pretty extraordinary, even though it's kind of an older palette at this point. This shade right here it still feels buttery. I'm trying to see if they have like a little bit, one of those little jars that says like how many months it's good for. It doesn't have one. It still worked to create a gorgeous look in my eyes today. So, and there's that shimmer shadow that's on my eyes in my inner corners. It's like a frosty white, but it has like a golden yellow shift, which I think is gorgeous. Oh, that's what it looks like. As you can see, it's a slightly larger palette than the 12 pan. We got 12, 13, 14, 15, a 15 pan. I don't know if they've ever created any other 15 pan palettes besides this one, but that's pretty unique about it. It's still a pretty different palette. I bought it because it didn't really, well, at the time that it came out, it didn't really look like any other palettes out there in the world. It's still like a pretty statement holiday palette, and you can do a whole lot with it. So I don't hesitate putting it in my number 5 spot. And the next 4 palettes, you guys, are really, really special. Like the next 4 are like beautiful palettes. So let's go ahead and talk about number 4. And I was having a lot of fun with this palette this summer, but this is coming in at number 4. This is the Colourpop The Zodiac palette. This is a Kathleen Lights and Colourpop collaboration. You can read that at the bottom right there. But, well, this one's special because it's got a mirror, but actually it's a beautiful, like, very clear mirror. I do appreciate that, but I don't usually use mirrors in palettes, but now that I've been making a point this year to take palettes traveling with me more, they actually do come in a little bit more handy nowadays more. I feel like this is another painstakingly thought out palette. Like I feel like Kathleen was working hard to create a palette that had both color and neutrals, both light shades and deep shades and medium shades, both lots of mattes and lots of shimmers. And, you know, Kathleen is a big enthusiast of the Zodiac, as am I. She wanted to give justice and create colors that a lot of these signs would enjoy. When I look at this palette, I can totally see the thought that went into it. Like, I know that the Leo is the sign of the sun, and it's a fire sign, and the animal that represents Leo is the lion. So this is like a beautiful golden sun-like with a little bit of a orange shift color. Like, I think that's really beautiful. I know a lot of Cancers didn't like this one, but I can see why she picked this color for Cancer. Cancer's the sign is a water sign, and it's the sign of the moon, so it's kind of got this like lunar kind of sheen to it that's really beautiful. The Cancers in my life are really loyal and supportive friends a lot of the time, so I feel like this is a beautiful accent color that would support a lot of the other colors. The color that's chosen for Gemini is like a really unexpected kind of gold. It's more of like an antique kind of gold, not your typical gold. It's almost kind of got like a green shift to it. And many Geminis that I've known in my life have enjoyed drama and theater, and also, I don't know, a lot of them like green too. So I feel like this is a nice dramatic green toned gold. Let me go ahead and swatch Leo. And I remember when she released this video, she talked about how like Leos are gonna love this color. I'm just like, well, actually the color that speaks to me more is Aries. Look at my swatches. Like, I tend to like swatch the same colors a lot, but you know, a lot of these colors are similar throughout the palettes because we were designed to be attractive to a huge audience of people. Virgo and Taurus are both earth signs, so they're nice earthy brown tones. I don't know. I just think this is a well thought out palette. There's a lot going on here. A little bit of everything going on here, which is like kind of extraordinary for a 12-pan palette. And I used it a lot this summer, and I feel like, I don't know, I really need to use, you know what I haven't used? Pisces, which is like the most extraordinary shade in this palette, I think, and I need to use it. And the Capricorn looks really pretty too. It's got like this, it's like a black shadow with some gorgeous black sparkle in it. I feel like that would be really fun for a smoky eye. I definitely want to play around with that. And yeah, that is the number 4 spot, and I absolutely love this palette. This is the Zodiac palette. And yeah, I had a hard time between choosing Zodiac palette as my number 3 or this one, but I ended up choosing another collab palette as my number 3. This is the Colourpop Perception palette, which is a collaboration with Makeup Shayla, and that's what it looks like in here. And it's another like really well thought out palette. Even though it's very heavy on the shimmers, there's way more shimmers in this palette than there are mattes. I think this palette was a little bit more designed to suit more deeper, medium to deep skin tones, but you know, I'm a light toned person, and this still is really fun for me to use, and I just have to pair it with transition shades that are a little bit lighter. Like this transition shade will work for me, but it's kind of the only one that will work for me. These are a little bit deeper colors, but this is a great deepening shade. I love me a good matte red, and I don't know, it's just really fun. It's got neutral stuff going on. It's got a really nice range of colorful shimmers here. This color IE is a very extraordinary shifting shade. Let me go ahead and it for you. Yeah, it's got like a blue, it's like brown with a blue shift. That's really fun. But then again, I do have lots of colors that are like that here, but there's, like I said, there's just a lot going on here. Both the mattes and the shimmers are extremely buttery, and they can, I think this palette is a great palette to create like evening clubbing looks if you're into that kind of, this is a great palette for that. Ooh, and now that I'm looking at it, I don't think I've ever touched this shade Titus. But this is like, I don't know, a really unique shade. And I feel like chromes and slate colors and like grays are gonna be the next big thing. So I feel like this is a very forward shade to put out. And it's got like a purple shift, so that's pretty cool too. This is another palette that's got this big old mirror, so that makes it nice for travel. Even though this palette has more of shades, it's still pretty small and compact. And yeah, I can't wait to play with a little bit more. And a lot of people have said that this is a dupe for the Urban Decay Born to Run palette, so this palette is cheaper. So if you're in the market for that kind of color scheme, check this one out. It is really fun. I love it. Okay, so we're getting pretty down there. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about palette number 2. So in second place is the I Think I Love You palette from Colourpop. And it's actually a neutral palette, and I remember in my eyeshadow palette video, the one where I show you all my eyeshadow palettes, and by the way, subscribe to this channel if you like that video. I plan on doing a new one before the end of the year, doing Vlogmas, so if you like eyeshadow palettes, subscribe and hit the bell, and keep an eye out for that. Anyway, back to this palette. Even though it's a neutral palette, I think it's the best neutral palette that Colourpop makes. I think this is a really extraordinary palette. It's got a really good mix of, well, it's mostly a mid-tone palette, but it's got some nice light shades right here, and this black is an excellent black. I think this is the only black that's in any of the palettes, but it's really an extraordinary. And in that video, in my eyeshadow palettes video, I talked about how this palette is kind of like a better version of the Urban Decay Naked. It's like this beautiful neutral palette that's very wearable, but the shimmers are pretty extraordinary. It's a very shimmer heavy palette. There's only 4 matte shades, the rest are shimmers, and these shimmers are, like I said, they're very extraordinary. And there's a good spread of neutral shimmers across tones. So we got these mid-toned ones, and we got the dark one here, these light ones, and you know, this gold shimmer is actually really, and this gold shimmer is especially extraordinary because it's so yellow tone. It's just a beautiful shimmer. Just like all the other palettes from Colourpop, these shimmers are very soft and smooth and easy to swatch and easy to pack onto the eyelid. And the spread of transition shades here, they've got like a light shade, a medium shade, and a deeper shade, which I think is really smart and great. And I just want to swatch this black for you guys, just so you guys get an idea of what it looks like. So yeah, that wasn't the best swatch in the world, but yeah, the whole idea of a black is you can use it as eyeliner, you can deepen up a look with it, and it's a pretty good black, all things considered. And yeah, that is why the Colourpop I Think I Love You palette is in the number 2 spot. I use this in my kit a lot. The shimmers are still really, you know, they work excellent inside my kit because usually when people want a shimmery look, they want one of these tones. They don't really want like a blue shimmer or a pink shimmer or anything like that. It's usually one of these, like champagne-y, gold, bronze, copper, something like that. So I love this palette, and that is why it's number 2. If you guys aren't ready, then get ready, because now we're going to talk about my number 1 choice. And the palette that I've ranked as my number 1 Colourpop palette in my collection is the Dream Street palette. I love this palette because it's got everything that I would want in a travel palette. It's small and compact, but it's pretty evenly matched mattes. Yeah, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's got 6 mattes and 6 shimmers, so it's half and half mattes, half and half shimmers. Some of these shimmers are really different shimmers. They're beautiful. Not only is it like a beautiful neutrals palette, but the pops of colors in here are extraordinary too, and they work together beautifully. I think this is a extraordinarily well thought out palette. This is another Kathleen Lights collaboration, and I just have to swatch some of these shimmers for you guys because they're beautiful. I can even compare them to some of like Huda's shimmers. They're just different in the same way. I think my favorite color might be this color, Sweet Dreams. I just don't know. I just don't have a color that's anything like that anywhere else in my collection. It's a champagne color, but it's got this like orange shift. It's really pretty. And this color Twinkle is like that too. There's Twinkle. One's a little bit more coppery, but it's also got an interesting shift. Just the way it looks on the eyes is just so magical. And yeah, it's very dreamy. I also absolutely love this watermelony red pop of color. And it swatches beautifully for a matte shade. It's just a gorgeous little swatch there. And yeah, I've traveled with this quite a bit. And this is another palette that is got a really good range. It's got mid-tone shades, lights, and darks. This Cool Tone Brown is a great deepening up shade. And even though it's got kind of two different color stories that you could use to create a look, you just can do so much with this palette. Like you could do a blue tone look, you could do a warm tone look, you could do something cool tone, you could do something warm toned, you could do something really neutral, you could do something really colorful. There's just a lot you could do with this palette, and I don't know, I just love it. The formula is great. I feel like these shimmers, they look pretty boring at first glance, but I think they're really extraordinary. Some of these colors are just very different and still wearable, and the packaging's gorgeous. The packaging works perfectly with what's going on inside. Like this rose gold copper kind of reflect that kind of does look like some of these shimmers that I just swatched for you. That is number 1. So that is it, friends. That was my Colourpop palettes ranked. I obviously haven't tried all the Colourpop palettes in their line. These are just the ones that I have and I've tried. Like I said, all of the Colourpop palettes, their formula is pretty consistent. Their price point is amazing, and based on how I work with eyeshadows and highliners, and based on my taste, that is how I ranked my eyeshadow palettes. And you know, after my no buy year, I'm actually really interested in picking up some more Colourpop palettes. I'm really interested in the So Jaded palette. Like, I feel like that's really beautiful, but I'm gonna wait until the new year to get that one. But I think I would really like that one. I feel like that one's pretty unique and different, and you can do a whole lot with it. Let me know down below in the comments what your favorite Colourpop palette is, what your least favorite Colourpop palettes is. If you had these palettes, how would you rank them? I feel like that'd be interesting to know too. Do you think it would be, you'd rank them similarly? Would you switch things up a little bit? Like, there's a couple instances in this video where I had a hard time deciding, but that's more or less my feelings. And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I really hope you enjoyed hanging out with me. I really enjoyed hanging out with you. And until next time, cheers. Bye!